Welcome to Ascension of the Chessmen, diving into the esoteric, occult, spiritual, and conspiratorial aspects of life, focused on solutions to the problems we face in our everyday lives. Let us ascend above all differences. Let us be the light in darkness, a breath of fresh air to those who can hardly breathe, and together awaken into greatness. This is Ascension of the Chessmen with your host, Mytty.
Welcome to the Ascension of the Chessmen podcast. I am your host, Mytty. Today's guest is a teacher, spiritual seeker, and host of the Local Listens podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, hobbits and fairies, give a warm welcome to Jake Loco. Thanks for coming on, brother.
Hey, Andre, good to see you, man. Happy 2023. Happy year of the rabbit or the cat or whatever. Mm-hmm. It's good to see you, man.
Oh, excuse me. Good to see you, brother. Whoa. Yeah, that water went down the wrong pipe.
It happens.
Yeah, dude. You're the rabbit indeed. I think it's going to bring some good fortune. Who knows what they got up their sleeve, but I'm not going to let that get in my way this year, and keep on keeping on. Continue to advance, and continue to grow, continue to evolve into our best selves.
So, right on. Should be a lot of rabbit holes too.
Totally. Yeah, it's funny because I just pulled the spring card the other day, which has the rabbit on it. And this morning I pulled the winter card, which is the wolf. And, I've been doing that a lot lately, and the cards have really been speaking to me, just telling me the message I need to hear for that day. And, I think to just kind of think about for the week or for a couple weeks, through that cycle. And it's been really helpful as of late. So it's just something I've been up to, integrating into my daily practice. But yeah, man, I usually kick my show off with this first question for every guest. So I guess for those who aren't familiar, Jake, can you explain what it is that you do? And I guess what woke you up to realizing maybe there's more to this life than you originally taught or thought?
Love it, man. Thank you. Yeah. My name is Jake. I usually go by Jake Loco. And back in March of 2022, I started the Local Listens podcast. Nice. And I did about 27 episodes. And then I took a break for quite a while, moved from Connecticut down to Texas. And I just started again. It was literally like, New Year's Eve, 2022. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to get this podcast going again. Like I've been taking this break for long enough. So, now we're up to episode, today will be, I think 35. So it's pretty cool. Thanks, man.
I took a break as well, dude. Much needed.
Yes. Yeah. It's like a winter thing, you got to like go into hibernation and get your energy back.
Exactly.
Yeah. I've been doing interviews on Local Listens, and I like to chat with anybody. There is definitely psychedelic, conspiratorial, mystical, even literary leaning on my show, but I'm open to anything. I like to say, I just want to hear people speak their truth, and so it's a cool first question that you asked, because on my podcast, I always ask people, when did you start to speak your truth? So it's cool. It's a different variation.
I like that.
I may or may not have been inspired by you, Andre. But, so
hey, that's what I'm here to do.
Yeah.
You are too, brother.
Yeah. There's a couple different ways I want to answer that. I mean, for
just lighting each other's candles.
Yeah, exactly. I love that. But yeah, there's a couple different ways I want to answer that, because, before I was even born, my older brother had this imaginary friend. Mm-hmm. And he would talk to him, and like this became like a normal thing. And then when I was born, the imaginary friend just vanished. Like he just went away. And I always kind of wondered about that. When they finally told me, like, oh yeah, by the way, you might be like the reincarnation of your brother's imaginary friend. I was like, that's kind of weird. But my parents were Yeah, I mean, my parents were both hippies, so like I think they were open to that in a way.
Right.
But then later on, I remember I think I was about 5 or 6 years old, and I was sick with a fever, like a strep throat. Which, ironically, I spoke to Whitney Fox a couple days ago, and she talked about almost like a spiritual attachment where you get sick every year, like in a cycle. And for me personally, it was strep every year. Yeah.
Same. Yeah.
And it wasn't until I was like 15 or 16 that it finally stopped. But anyways, when I was sick, I'm sure you guys know like that phrase, a fever dream. And I had this really vivid dream, which is giving me chills to think about now. But so it's a very Gemini themed dream. Like basically I was in my childhood home and everything was grayscale, like black and like, it kind of looked like a chessboard almost, like it was like a very,
That's wild.
Yeah, right. There was no color. It was, so anyways, I'm walking around and in my living room somewhere, there's this mysterious spiral staircase. And I'm like, that's kind of weird. Like that doesn't really exist, but I wasn't lucid. I was just, going through my dream. So I walked up the spiral staircase and opened this mysterious looking door, and in front of me was a bed with two lovely looking ladies. They were totally nude, posing kind of like Greek goddesses. And I was like, wow. And then I woke up immediately. But like ever since that, like I woke up from that and I was like, damn, where is this spiral staircase? I got to find this. Like it's got to be around here somewhere. So that kept me, that sent me on this like seeking quest to figure out what this dream was telling me and why I imagined, quote unquote, this imaginary staircase in my house, even though it wasn't there physically. But yeah.
Stairway to heaven.
Yeah, right on. Right on. Or Jacob's ladder.
Yeah. That reminds me of an experience I had with some mushrooms, 5 grams in silent darkness. And I almost thought it was like the Akashic record. Like it was like this spiral staircase and it was like in a library with all these books. And I could, go to any book and open it up and ask it a question and I could, find the answer immediately. And if I didn't like the answer given, I could like shut that book and let go. Yeah. If I saw where that was going, like if it was going down a dark road I didn't want to go down, like I could just shut that book and open a new one. But it's a crazy synchronicity.
There's a lot of truth there too. Like you can go down all these rabbit holes and do research or even just do like, some self introspection, some meditation. And, I think it's good to look at the dark side. You don't want to hang out there for too long, but always remember that you can close that book and go to a different chapter or different library. It's pretty cool.
So true, dude. Couldn't say it better myself. I think, that's the balance. And that's what I had to find out early on when I was waking up was, just like seeing no way out and just seeing all this corruption and the world's fucked and, seeing no way out of that. And I was going to church at the time, thought the world was ending, the Mayan prophecies and prophecies were coming real, getting into Revelations and the Bible and all this. And I had grown up in Catholic school. So for me, like leaving that, I didn't know any other way to find God other than a church. So it was, learning that lesson for me personally of having sought out churches on my own after leaving the church I was brought up in and realizing the church wasn't for me, at least the churches I had went to, and having a breakthrough experience with some LSD in my early 20s that made me realize that this was what I was looking for as far as like this direct experience, this direct connection to something beyond myself or something within myself that I was searching everywhere for externally, but forgot to look right under my nose, deep inside myself. And there it was. And so I stopped going to church after that. My buddy started to get me into meditation around that time. And, just starting to take my power back in a sense, find my own sovereignty and independence, and getting out of this codependence mechanism, this mind virus that's all around us, or like getting into this victim mentality, like expecting everyone to feel sorry for you. And there's always someone else to blame besides yourself. Like, not having any accountability or responsibility for why does your life suck, or why are you in this position? Why do these cycles keep happening to you? Why do the same people keep showing up? They may have different names, look different, be totally different people, but there's a lot of similarities that you can't ignore. And, just starting to become aware of these things, and just coming to a place of awareness and presence throughout life. Eckhart Tolle was a big teacher of mine early on in my spiritual journey. The Power of Now and New Earth, my goodness, like some of my darkest moments were spent reading Eckhart Tolle, and that book just like totally brought me the fulfillment I needed.
Yeah. What's ironic about him too, like just from my own personal experience with his writing, is that I was reading Power of Now, I think. Yeah. It was that one. I was on a train going from Connecticut to New York City to see my friend. And as we got closer and closer to Grand Central Station, these messages, and then even like on the subways from Grand Central to her apartment over in Queens, it was like I was given that real-time task to apply what he was trying to teach us in the most absurdly overstimulating and overcrowded area in the entire world. And it was really cool because like that was perfect synchronicity, because I've also read that same book like in the quiet, in the grass, under the sunshine, no one's bothering me.
Right.
So it was really cool contrast there. Yeah.
That is, man. Yeah. Total, how should I say this? Like, survivor's manual or survivor's handbook for going into NYC.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. Yeah. Celestine Prophecy was another one I read early on. I don't know if you've ever read that, but it goes through all these 10 insights in this hidden manuscript that the church was hiding because they didn't want the word to get out that we're all one, and they would.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of the Hermetic principles.
Yep. What is that one? The Kabbalion?
It's like where as above, so below comes from, and all that.
Yep. That was a great book as well. But Celestine Prophecy would talk about synchronicities, like that was one of the first insights, and like how to work with them, and what they mean and all this. And I was given plasma at the time, like really desperate for money, like really young and broke. And there was a lady in there. I walked in one day and she was reading the Celestine Prophecy, like literally the day after I had read the chapter on synchronicities. And it was just like one of those moments where you'll never forget, like, talking about the synchronicities that will happen in your life as I'm reading Celestine. And then I walk on someone reading it. I mean, that was just one of those ones I'll never forget. But it's been a hell of a ride, man. And it's crazy, all the people I've met along the way. I really do believe like more and more people are waking up by the day, and the tribes are finding each other.
It's cool too. Yeah, I mean, you just said exactly like that. We're finding the others, and you brought up like Silent Darkness, right? And that comes from Terrence McKenna. And I have a perfect story about this too, because I got into. It was funny. Simultaneously, I kind of associate Eckhart Tolle with Alan Watts as well. Yeah, they have like kind of the same Zen principles. And I was listening to, back when I was like 20, 21, Terrence McKenna and Alan Watts, like a lot of that YouTube rabbit hole of their lectures. Ram Dass too. And it's pretty cool because there is also, I was a part of some pretty, how would I say this? Pretty eclectic Facebook groups. Like there was one called the Terrence McKenna group on Facebook, and we would just share all these memes and insights. And eventually, as Timothy Leary says, I was able to find the others, and I got to go and visit someone down in Florida who, we shared very much the same values that were kind of promoted by Terrence, not necessarily like, and I'm sure this is standard on most podcasts where people talk about psychedelics, but it's like, I'm sure you and I would never recommend that people do them and things like this, but just in this happenstance, caution. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, we shared these values, which came from Terrence, which were then almost echoed on this Facebook group. And, what a time to be alive, right? We were able to connect and hang out together and have an experience together that still, I feel like, just to put it into a summary, I mean, I've never been in silent darkness listening to Pink Floyd albums before. That was wow. That was something I'll never forget.
That's wild. Yeah. It's funny you mentioned that. Well, I guess I mentioned my experience with 5 grams of silent darkness, but I just watched Aubrey Marcus's Darkness Retreat documentary last night.
Aubrey's great.
Oh, it was phenomenal, man. Like makes me want to do a Darkness Retreat so bad. Like
the sweat what's it called? The Sweat Lodge is kind of like that in a way. Yep. I mean, not totally dark, but you are very much in like a cocoon, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So you have music playing. Well, they're singing songs with drums, which I'm going to be making a drum here soon and learning some songs, but it does feel like that. And it's very symbolic of a death and rebirth experience. It's like you're crawling back into the womb of Mother Earth.
Right.
And being reborn again on the other side, being purified and purging everything you're holding on to that isn't serving you, literally like an Aya ceremony,
Yeah.
And, it's just some of the things I've taken away from it. Like, I just feel like completely connected to the earth, like completely connected to my fellow man, everyone around me, to myself, to God, and to the earth. And, you have the 7 directions, you have northeast, west, and south. And then you have Mother Earth and Father Sky. And then you have the last direction, the 7th direction, is internal, or God. Right. And, that's something I just learned recently, but, we just think it's like the surface level, just these 4 directions, but then we forget that, our internal state is what completes, the circle or the medicine wheel. And it comes full circle with that,
Right on.
But yeah, it's been a powerful experience. It's been like the first church I've been a part of where I didn't feel judged or shamed or guilted into anything. And just to like have that direct connection that I was looking for, because you are in silent darkness until the drum starts playing. And once the drum's playing, it's like the earth beat of the earth, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Or it's like the heartbeat of the earth. And it's powerful, man. But, it's like just comparing like dressing up and going into a building with 4 walls. And if you're not dressed a certain way, it's like it's looked down upon or whatever. Yeah. And it's like, dude, I'm going in this in like shorts, bro. Like,
right.
With a towel.
What's ironic too? Like you had brought up the Mayan calendar and the 2012 prophecy, and it's funny to think about it. So like, all right, Christian Europeans obliterated the Mayans, right? Like they supposedly from the history that we get, but they totally disregarded their shamanistic practices, if they had any. I'm sure that they did, and their culture, their religion, etc. But the only thing that stuck was this end times prophecy. Everything else they like destroyed. But it's like this calendar, though. Isn't that ironic?
Total fear, brother. Like it's all like this waiting game. Like we're gonna wait to be saved until the Savior comes back. And like I think like that just leaves room for not taking accountability and having responsibility for your own actions. And like, that's kind of the trap I felt like I was stuck in the operating system of what the church had taught me, of like, you don't need to change. You just need to accept Jesus into your heart, which I still believe that. And I still believe that
there's still value there.
Yeah. You can have,
you don't want to simp for Jesus though, you know, because if you simp for Jesus, then you'll have tunnel vision. You probably won't look within, which is like, that's probably half of the battle, is looking to yourself.
Yep. It's like, you got to carry your own cross versus expect Jesus to carry it for you. You know?
Right.
And it's like that externalization versus the internalization, you know, and coming to grips with that. I mean, that took me years and years to get to that point. Cause like I had seen zeitgeist early on when I was wrapped up in the religious dogma and, you know, that programming growing up in it for so long. You know, I was baptized Lutheran, went to an evangelical church, and then forced into Catholic school. And then I went to a Pentecostal church on my own doing after I graduated, like after leaving the Catholic church. And, you know, I was always just seeking, man. And I was just trying to find answers. And I guess I had never started to question like, oh, like maybe it wasn't meant to be taken literally. And I think I was afraid of that. And so like when I had seen Zeitgeist, like I was just in complete denial way back then, back in 2011, 2012, watching it at that time. But I go back and watch it now after years and years of, you know, really looking at things differently and digging deeper into the teachings within that book. Something that was really beneficial for me after I left the church was I made a point to highlight every word attributed to Jesus in that book, in the 4 Gospels, which is arguably anywhere from 800 to 1,000 words out of an 800,000 word book. And to me, that would like get to the meat of the message, you know, and like tell you what's the message to be learned here. So that really helped me get to the heart of that, because I think each of the 4 Gospels are a different perspective, whether that's emotional, spiritual, physical, and mental, and they're all told from a slightly different perspective. And it could also pertain to the 4 directions and the 4 seasons and all the other symbology, the 4 elements, on and on and on it goes. But yeah, just like getting into the more esoteric teachings within that book, the astrotheology of it, the message that I took from the book of Genesis. There's that verse in there about in the land of Pineal, Jacob met God face to face. And like, I say this a million times, but like that verse is just mind blowing to me. Like, and it tells you like how much more they knew than we think. Did, you know what I mean?
There's something really fascinating. Once you uncover the fact that like Christianity is kind of like the latest version. I mean, I could say that in a couple different ways. Like maybe trust the science. Scientism is the latest version, or atheism, or something like that. Right. But you know, like science. But like going back to
Mormonism.
I mean, well, Mormonism is fascinating.
Mormonism is pretty much Christianity, though, I guess.
It is. Yeah. It's what's it called? It's very fundamentalist. But what I wanted to say is like, you know, Hinduism is one way that you could point to like the origin. And it's cool because when they talk about pineal and Jacob's ladder, you know, I was talking to Micah Dank about this, that Jacob's ladder, and he taught this to me. I didn't really know this beforehand. But since then, I've seen videos from Jim Carrey, the famous actor, talk about this. Our vertebrae, you know, we have the, so basically like the Kundalini, which comes from Hinduism, was then kind of retranslated into this Jacob's ladder story because, you know, when I saw that spiral staircase in my original dream that I shared with you, like I was thinking of a physical staircase, but then you think about like a spiral structure in your spine.
Right.
That leads up to the kingdom of heaven, really. And, that
Caduceus.
The Caduceus.
Yep.
Yeah, that is, once again, it gives me chills to think about. But it's pretty cool because then like Krishna and Christ are very similar. Yep. There's even that phrase, Krishna consciousness. So looking into astrotheology is really cool. And it's also fun to look into the etymology, which, they go, I don't really know Sanskrit or Hebrew, or I'm trying to learn a little bit more Latin roots and Greek roots, but all of that, I mean, you can go on so many cool rabbit holes, and someone might ask you like, what's the point of all that? And it's really just to gain perspective, I guess. You can look at things differently. You can look at the way that things are named or classified, and I think it's just fun.
Totally. I mean, I think life is wasted if you're just, sitting around doing the same thing every single day in, day out, working the same job for 20 years with the same girl for your whole life, never leave your hometown, like this bubble way of living,
Yeah, the hero's journey doesn't work like that. You gotta leave, you gotta sacrifice everything that you have. And then just like when you spoke about the rebirthing experience with the sweat, it's like you gotta kind of let yourself not waste away, but you have to be able to, so if I'm saying this as like advice to anyone, it's really just advice to myself that in order to grow, I just had to leave behind a lot of the old programming that I carried with me. And I think that's what's weird about going into a ceremony of any kind, or like a medicine journey, is that whether you're by yourself or in some kind of group, everyone brings their baggage. And that's the way that school was described to me, because I'm teaching high school right now. And basically, like, there's this metaphor, this analogy that school is like this airport, and everyone brings their baggage with them. Everyone's flying out to a different destination, though. Arguably, we are all we're all going to eventually go to the final destination together. But in between then and now, we're all flying out to a different destination, different airport, if you will. And so it's cool to reconcile that baggage that you take with you. For me, the baggage that I took with me on my formative experiences in plant medicines and other journeys like that was just weird, heavy, dark energy from the Sandy Hook shooting in 2012, because I was a senior in Newtown High School, which, if you guys know, Newtown and Sandy Hook, Connecticut are the same place. And Newtown High School is a mile away from Sandy Hook. And, irregardless of all the ideas, the theories and whatnot, it was just like a very dark energy around the whole town. And that was my senior year. I was happy to graduate and leave in 2013. But that was your
senior year when that happened.
That was my senior year, 2012. Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah. I actually remember vividly, I was dressed up really nice because it was picture day for the wrestling team. I know we were chatting about wrestling before we hit record. Yeah. So, I was dressed up. I was late for school too. Like, I was driving myself, and I got to my first period class. It was economics with my old cross country teacher. Shout out to Mr. Foss. I doubt you're listening to this, but I love you, dude. We've been through some real shit together. And that was a crazy day. And that's a good segue too, because I think going through that darkness, the pain and, the suffering that people around me were experiencing, because I didn't personally lose anybody. But, just being around that, it's contagious, right?
Oh, yeah.
The other thing that was contagious, though, was there were fucking journalists everywhere. There were news anchors knocking on people. Like, it was very much like on the borderline of harassment. Like, there were so many cameras pointed at us.
Yeah.
And man, I'm happy to be out of there, but it was definitely an experience that shaped me for who I am today.
So, yeah, I'm sure, man. I was just gonna ask. So, did you go to the grade school like growing up, or
I did go there for summer camp? But Newtown has like a bunch of different elementary schools, and I was on the other side. I went to different elementary school. But yeah, Sandy Hook Elementary, before they tore it down and rebuilt it, I was there at summer camp. And even recently, I think maybe like 2011 or like early 2012, I was there on the wrestling team. We were helping to train the Sandy Hook wrestling team. So these little kids who are little beasts, by the way. If I started wrestling when I was in elementary school, I'd probably be way better. But some of the team members and I would go and volunteer because they were doing practices at the Sandy Hook school. So I got to go, and I hadn't been there in years because I was really young when I went to summer camp. So coming back to work with the wrestling team was pretty cool. Yeah. And then when this shooting happened, it was right in the middle of our wrestling season. It was December 2012. As I said, I was dressed up for picture day. That was obviously canceled, but we dedicated the rest of that season to those kids and those teachers. And that was really nice. It wasn't until later that all of the conspiracy stuff started to come out, and some of the, like, I know, for example, are you familiar with Hell's Angels?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. So
Hell's Angels was hired, and if you guys don't know, Hell's Angels is like a very famous biker gang. Yep. They're very tough guys, and they were hired, they were brought to protect some of the funerals because I think one group in particular, the Westboro Baptist Church, came to protest at some of these funerals. So the Hells Angels were hired to be like security there. It was pretty intense. That's just one of the many interactions that the mainstream media and, the conspiracy community had been very focused on Sandy Hook. And obviously Alex Jones is a big topic. It's just there was a lot to process from 2013 to 2023, getting out of Newtown and starting a new life.
Yeah, I'm sure that didn't stop you from wanting to get out of there and start a new life somewhere else. Just all that trauma that was there as a result, and that energy. That was still felt there, I'm sure, in a lot of the people there.
The other thing too, Andre, is like wanting to escape was like definitely a profound feeling, but it was also like there was a healing quality to all of this because there were many ways that I escaped, especially I graduated 2013, went out to freshman year of college, and I partied a lot, and a lot of that was to escape. But then, like at a certain point, even as a freshman, as what was I, like a 19-year-old, I then gradually started to want to move towards more of like a medicine journey, I guess. And so that really kicked it off for me, especially, finding the others, as we said. I found my tribe and my people. And now doing the podcast is great because you have tribe everywhere if you can look hard enough and find them.
Totally. Yeah. So how did you go about Aya your first time? Like, was it pretty synchronistic how all that happened, or what led you to Aya in the first place?
Yeah, it is pretty synchronistic, I guess. And, the way that it all happened, I'll just be like clear here. Like I was about 21 years old. I was still in college, kind of directionless. Mm-hmm. Not to say that I had like more clear direction when I came out of the ceremony, but at that point I was just kind of like your average college student who wasn't aware of the woke programming that was happening right in front of me. But I was there doing my thing, working in a restaurant and just growing up. I was only 21 really. So, how grown up can you be?
Young. Yeah. Totally.
So
I was an idiot at 21.
Yeah, same. Yeah. I mean, I'm only 27, just to be clear,
I'm 30.
Yeah. So, I got to fly out to the Seattle area, and I mean, just like even before flying out there, my dad was more open-minded. He was more of a hippie than my mother was.
Okay,
but yeah, he was cool with it. He's like, just be safe. And my mom dug into the Google search and found like people who had died drinking ayahuasca, and
oh geez,
I had to have
scare tactics.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that out there.
There is a lot of it. I'm sure there's some validity to some of the stories, but
Totally.
The place I was going,
folks.
Yeah, you got to do your own research. I'm glad that she looked it up, but she was very protective. So eventually, I was able to explain to her, like, listen, Mom, like, this is the Aklava Native American Church. Like, this is an established place for worship, for like a sacred experience. And so, I was going to go either way, but she was just very strongly urging me not to go. I paid for everything. I saved up my money as a dishwasher at a restaurant. So I made it happen.
Took a little bit. Yeah.
I was very called to do this somewhere deep within me. And that was mostly thanks to being able to experiment and experience mainly, psilocybin and a lot of the fungal allies that we can find around here. Yeah. So before I even left, a week before, I was writing all these journals, and I typed them all out so I can save them. And it's crazy because a week before I was set to depart, I got this really crazy rash on my skin. Wow. I don't know if it was like laundry detergent or an allergy to food or something, but there was this really
laundry detergent,
itching, and so that made me very concerned. I was like, "Is this a sign that I shouldn't go?" Like, oh shit! Like, it just got worse, and I ended up going, obviously, but that almost threw me off because I was like, "Damn, maybe this is a sign like that."
It reminded me of my first journey, dude, because I had a tooth pulled the week before, and I was like, is this a sign? Like, is this going to come up in the journey? Like, am I going to be in pain? Yeah, so I totally relate to that. Yeah.
Yeah, like, I try to be prepared and, like, hear other people speak about their experiences, and it sounded like the last thing you want to do is be, like, sitting up on your cushion, like, scratching yourself and, like...
Right.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. Totally. Yeah, you don't want that to ruin your time.
Yeah, I was definitely on edge going into it. But I landed, I met the people, they were really nice. And we got along instantly. So we were staying in these teepees that were set up with heaters. So it was like really cozy, really comfortable. And I got to share a teepee with a really cool guy. And basically, like, immediately there were almost like synchronous events. Like the synchronicity had to do with this rash. So basically, like, I didn't tell anyone. I had my long sleeve shirt on, and like I was trying to hide everything and didn't want to draw attention to myself because I was just nervous. I think everyone was a little on edge because it was all of our first times drinking ayahuasca. So it was very novel. Obviously the guides and the shamans, the leaders with us were experienced, but all the people who came and signed up to do this were all brand new. And I was the youngest one there. But
yeah, I was gonna say you're young, man, to be doing Aya. That's brave.
I got very lucky. Yeah, I got really lucky because the DEA raided this place later on. That's a different story. But anyways, we were walking to our teepee, and I tripped and fell into this pile of like deep mud. Like I was muddy, like from my like shoulder all the way down the side of my body, like covered. Yeah. And there's not like a shower nearby, we're like out like camping basically. So that was an interesting start. And again, all of this was almost like, it could have been very discouraging and concerning. But I kind of laughed it off. But like, I had to clean the mud off of me and get rid of it and change my clothes. And so when I did this, my rash was visible to other people. And good thing, because they immediately offered me lavender oil and coconut oil, and we were able to like get it kind of soothing, get a soothing remedy onto it, which definitely helped because then eventually I was more comfortable for the beginning of the ceremony, which we did do a brief sweat, but it was really cold. Nice. We were up in Washington in February. Nice. So, the Oregon coast, Washington, it's pretty cold up there. It was rainy. Didn't really sweat, to be honest with you, but I did go through that whole, going into the womb of the earth and all that. And the stones were brought in. They were rubbing sweet grass on the stones. It was really nice.
But very vulnerable. On them.
Yeah. So I hope to do it again and actually sweat because I know the sauna is really, really powerful. sweating sauna.
Maybe I can connect you with some down there. Down in Dallas, Austin area.
Oh,
how far is
awesome,
Austin from Dallas?
It's about a 3-hour drive, 3.5 hours.
Okay.
Yeah, I want to go see Aubrey Marcus and all those people.
Yeah, because I know my buddy Chongo's looking for a sweat too down by.
Oh,
Dallas.
Cool. Yeah, man. So that was the first day was the sweat. Second day, basically it began as a San Pedro ceremony. So crazy thing about this, I told you about Sandy Hook. I told you about this rash. So like all this was kind of swirling in my conscious mind, whatever, the rash
not the best things you want to be holding on to.
Yeah. And I'm just itchy as fuck, It's like, I look like a fucking crackhead,
Right.
But I'm trying to control it, but you can only control it so much. And I ended up calling it the cosmic itch eventually, because it's like, it was only like in my mental state that I was itchy. But if I was able to overcome that, then the itch would go away. But I'll get into that later. Mind over matter. Exactly. Very hermetic. So we start with San Pedro, and it's probably like noon, maybe like 1 or 2 o'clock. The sun is out. It's beautiful, like perfect day. And what was happening was, we all drank the San Pedro, which is a cactus like peyote, mescaline derived medicine. And this is a masculine energy. So like it makes you kind of want to get up and move around. And like people were like going on little hikes, and we're all spread out doing our own thing. And I decided to kind of lay out in the sun like a lizard, right? I just wanted to like absorb those solar rays. And I had mentioned we're up in, the wilderness outside of Seattle, LB, Washington, to be specific, if anyone's familiar with that area. It's beautiful, middle of nowhere, gorgeous, except, when people live in the middle of nowhere, they're prone to fire their guns off, just for fun. And I grew up hunting. I love shooting. I'm in Texas, for God's sake. Right. But at that time, on the medicine,
not what you were wanting to hear.
Not what I was ready for. Yeah. And so I'm laying there in the sun, and then all of a sudden we hear gunshots, and it's like, fuck, what is happening?
Thought you were in a war zone.
Yeah. Boy. Just to be clear, they're just neighbors of this farm that we're staying on, doing some target practice. No big deal. But internally, I was like, oh no.
Freak the fuck out.
Exactly what I wanted to avoid and overcome. But it was perfect, because I remember my guide walked over to me, and he saw me visibly uncomfortable and like scratching myself. And, I was just a total mess. But he like came over to me, and he's like, what's going on, man? And I told him about Sandy Hook and all that. And he's like, all right, I totally hear you. And like, we had this really nice exchange. And at the very end of it, this is all that I really remember. He told me, let it be. And that triggered something in me, because he said, let it be. And then all of a sudden I started to hear the Beatles song playing in my mind. And I closed my eyes and like had these really beautiful floral visuals. And I was very relaxed and soothed from that. So I think that was an important part of this process. Yeah. Cause it was just like you were saying earlier, Andre, like mind over matter. And there's gunshots, and that's not ideal, but was I going to let it affect my mental state so much? And at first I did. I totally was a victim of that.
Right.
But then he was able to pull me out of that victim mindset and be like, all right, this is the way it is, but we're still going to have a healing journey. Good time. So that was San Pedro. All this leads up to the evening where we finally drink ayahuasca. And
so San Pedro is a pretty short experience in comparison.
Yeah, it's very similar to psilocybin. And I think, to be frank, like our dose, because this was like supposed to prepare us for the ayahuasca ceremony. So it wasn't like a very hefty, it was more of like a micro
dipping
dose.
your toes in kind of deal. Yeah.
Kind of like tune up the old pineal gland to get.
I see what you're saying. Okay. Yeah. Sorry to interrupt. So you're getting into the Aya ceremony.
Yeah. The Aya ceremony was later in the evening. And I'm gonna look at my journal for this because I want to refer to like really specific memories.
Yeah, there was something that really stuck out to me about coming back to your breath.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
Which was huge for me in my ceremonies. So yes, totally resonate with that.
So I'm going to read part of it. I'll probably, break off at a certain point, but I just kind of want to get this out there. So I said, Saturday evening, Mother Ayahuasca was speaking to me in a voice I had never heard before. I was almost convinced that I was going insane, but her soothing voice spoke to me with a clear and bright tone. She said, "You have two choices, fear or love." And I could feel her defragmenting all the old cynical nonsense I had constructed within my mental state. And she presented with me a simple gift, a reminder to choose wisely. And I took the first wholesome breath in what seemed like hours. And you could imagine, and I was talking to someone about this the next day during our integration.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, yeah, man, anxiety, all it really is just air trapped in your chest. I was like, oh, I never thought about that before. He's like, yeah, man, think about a Tesla coil. If the energy gets stuck halfway up, it's not going to reach its full height. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. That's a great way to visualize it.
Such a good way to put it, man. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I felt earlier, I even wrote this down that, my shallow breath, my shallow gasp seemed to be trapping me within myself. And I felt like I was in a coffin. I had like this, see, the thing is, anyone who's been in this kind of ceremony, you got people to the left in you, to the left and the right, and they're puking, and it's not the most glorious scene.
It's it's like a battlefield, man.
It is, yeah.
Like you're all going to war together.
Yeah. And so, the sounds of people vomiting next to me, I said it was like a symphonic purgatory. And, purgatory is interesting. And we had spoke about Dante's Inferno briefly another time. And it's like purgatory, that in between life and death, heaven and hell. Purgatory contains the word purge. And it's just funny that people were getting rid of a lot of stuff. Personally, for me, and I don't know how this had happened, but I ate a very, very clean diet before this, and I did not throw up. And I'm not bragging.
Neither did I.
Yeah. Like, I
weird
think it would have been, like maybe it would have been
ceremonies.
Yeah. That's really interesting. Like,
I feel like I'm due though, eventually.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like,
but yeah, go on.
I'm not bragging about this. I'm just saying maybe it would have been better if I did throw up a little bit, but I was, so that like almost concerned me. I felt left out. I was like,
I felt the same thing, dude. I felt guilty about it. I'm like, I was like, why can't I puke? Like I felt so ashamed. Like, what did I do wrong?
The following day, like everyone's talking about like vomiting out these like dark spiritual entities, and I'm like,
I guess I'm taking everything home with me. Yeah, dude. I just came to the realization that like you purge in different ways, like I didn't realize like all the past psilocybin experiences I had when I was shivering or yawning or crying or laughing. Like these are all forms of purging, man. And like I never knew that up until Aya. So that was like a huge realization for me. I don't know about you.
Absolutely, yeah, man. I'm thinking back to, on that same evening of the ceremony and other previous experiences with psilocybin, especially when I did this in a cold season, which this was February 2016 in the north. So it was very cold. But we had heaters next to us. We were fine. But I felt these shivers and the difference between sweat and tears, like I was sweating like a cold sweat, but I also felt like I was crying. So it's like, it's that same idea, on both occasions, I was just leaking.
Right. Purging. Yeah, dude, that purgatory allegory is such a paradox to me now, like looking back on it. I'm like, I totally see the resemblance of everything I went through, because I thought I was in hell for a while. I thought I was the devil for a while. I thought I was God for a while, and I was like controlling everyone else's experience, and like I thought I was like ruining everybody's time, and like just completely completely ego tripping. And just that whole death and rebirth, man. Like, and that thing you mentioned about feeling like you were in a coffin, I totally had that too. Like at one point, like I was an Egyptian pharaoh, and I remember my arms were crossed and I was like laid back.
Whoa.
I thought I was about to be sacrificed in front of everyone. So in my mind, I thought like the only way to like get out of this was to jump in the fire. So like I'm literally about to jump in the fire, and thankfully I did it. But
You can still choose in some different ways, but you know, it's interesting. I really love, and it wasn't until years later. It was actually like last year, right before I was going to speak to Miguel Connor on Ambite about Dante's Inferno, is that someone reached out to me, Gabe, Slick Dissident. Shout out to you, Gabe. Yeah. He was speaking to me about the purgatory, and you know, eventually my story will go up to paradise. But like while I was in that dark state, I felt like I was remote viewing or having like some kind of astral projection, because
totally
I was in total darkness in this like quote unquote coffin, like we said. But I felt like I left my physical body and I traveled all the way back to Connecticut, where my family was sitting down to have dinner, talking about me and being like, oh yeah, Jake's doing this crazy cult ayahuasca thing, and you know, hopefully he doesn't get murdered while he's out there, and you know, this and that. I was like, oh my God, they think I'm so dumb, and like that was my like obviously projecting a little bit. But I was like, I like got to like visit them and hear what they had to say. So I carried their baggage with me as well. It was really my own baggage, but you know, I was very much a black sheep at that period. Still am, but you know,
I totally, it totally makes me think of my buddy Cameron, who I met there, my first journey. He's like, my dad was warning me about this, like saying I shouldn't go. And he's like, I'll never forget. He told me, he's like, don't get raped while you're there, whatever you do or something like that. And he walks in the door and like, there's this big sign that says Soul Quest Ayahuasca. And the first thing underneath it says rape.
Oh yeah, Rape.
He's
my
like,
God, what a synchronicity.
What is this place?
What have we done?
So fucking funny, dude.
That is really good, yeah. It's pronounced Rape, yeah. Wow.
But I think everyone has to deal with that in some form or another. Like, if you're telling people about it, they're looking at you sideways. Like, especially back then, man. Like, that was a while back. So, you know, it wasn't as popular even it is even a couple of years ago. You know,
2016 was a whole different timeline.
Aaron Rodgers coming out now about it.
The Hat Man. Yeah.
Right. The Hat Man.
Yeah, I'm thankful I didn't see anything too dark like that. You know, in fact, I didn't really see much until I finally took that deep breath. And it was crazy because, like, I was going into this ready for the visuals. You know, I'd done the Silent Darkness with psilocybin, so I was, like, kind of well-versed in that and familiar. But I've also heard that, you know, each plant is totally unique.
Totally.
So eventually, you know, things turned lighter, and I took that deep breath. I got this very dualistic, cryptic message about, you know, you can choose fear or love. And sometimes it's not that simple, but in the moment, I was like, yeah, that makes perfect sense. I mean, I'm going to choose love. And it was weird too, because Sandy Hook had a nonprofit that was called Choose Love. And it was this green logo. It's basically like anytime you see merch, like t-shirts, bracelets, the Sandy Hook Promise, their slogan was "Choose Love." So it was weird to have that kind of flood back to me. And it was green for the heart chakra. It was perfect.
Right. Totally.
Yeah.
It's wild, dude.
Yeah. So I took this deep breath, and I mean, basically the way that I described it in my journal was that, you know, I took a beautiful breath of fresh air through my abdomen, like I should have done the whole time. But, you know, if I go back again, which I definitely want to, I'm going to make sure to focus on my diaphragm breathing some more. But I finally transcended madness, I think. And the pressure in my skull finally subsided. Like I felt like just not only was I in this coffin, but like, you ever see those horror movies, Saw, where they've got like those crazy helmets on and like,
Right.
Yeah, it was kind of like that. I know it's like very disturbing, but like, I just did not feel comfortable at all.
Yeah, that's terrifying.
Very itchy the whole time too, but you know, I was totally out of my body, so I didn't really like.
Yeah, anyone that's experienced it, like you're experiencing your own personal hell, you know, you have to go through that to get to heaven.
You have to go through it. Yeah, man.
You know? And that's the hardest part is surrendering to that. Like, surrendering to the darkest moments, you know.
Going into it, they provided a mantra. They're like, if you want to, you know, if you get into like a tight situation, just remember, you know, trust and surrender. Trust and surrender. And I think surrender sometimes has like a negative connotation.
Right.
If I were to go back, I would just say trust and flow. Trust and flow. Not to like fight back, you know, just let it happen and learn from it. And I feel like I really have learned from it, because like eventually, you know, this warm sensation spread through me. And as I was saying, I wasn't seeing anything. I had my blindfold on. It was totally black, felt like I was in a coffin. And then, just like with San Pedro, this floral pattern started to spread across my my peripheral. Like, it was kind of weird. It was like unlike anything I've ever seen before, in the fact that like there wasn't like these geometric sort of distortions that you might find from other substances. It was very floral and like natural looking, and it was really cool. It was like, I feel like I'd tapped into something. The best thing I could describe is like I tapped into something Gaian, like being connected to the earth, as you said earlier.
Natural beauty, yeah. Yeah, for me, man, you mentioned like this duality of love versus fear. There's a lot of duality and like parallels in my journey as well, of like the first one being like a lot of God versus the devil stuff. And like realizing there's aspects of each of those in me, like the 7 deadly sins versus the 7, what do you call them? Like the opposition to that. So you have the seven deadly sins, and then like the 7 beatitudes or whatever they are, that are the opposing emotions to that, you know. And you know, just coming to grips with that, like, no, these aren't projections outside of myself. These are aspects of myself. And you know, just surrendering to that, or you know, being okay with that. And then the following journey was more about like the masculine versus feminine, and there was like this motherly God, like Mother Gaia, Mother Earth God, and then there was this Abrahamic like Father God over here. And I felt like I was like going through a divorce with my parents. Like, I got to choose one or the other here. Like, who do I choose? And like, I was so torn, dude. And that was another one where it was like, oh, these are just aspects within you. And like, you have aspects of each of them within, and you have to balance them and integrate them, and, you know, recognize them, respect them, and honor them. And, yeah, that was very humbling. And then my 5 grams in silent darkness was more about unity versus duality, and superseding both of those prior journeys.
On the theme of unity, I mean, have you ever spoken with Mira Taylor before?
I don't think I have. I've heard of her, though. Yeah.
Mira Taylor's great. She's Moon and Rune Wellness on Instagram, moonandrune.com. So she likes to talk about, and I really love chatting with her about this, when it comes to archetypes, or even like astrological archetypes. You know, she's very much opposed to the idea that, you know, you are your sun sign. Like, I'm a Taurus, and et cetera. We are all the archetypes. And I guess, you know, if we're going to make it a yin and a yang, you know, it's like we are both, we are all, and it's overwhelming at first, but I think that's kind of what the medicine reveals to you. And it's very fascinating, because then that gives you a sense of power. Like, you don't have to be a victim to an archetype, because you are all of them. And literally, so you are the one creating the experience. And that's kind of what, you know, ayahuasca revealed to me towards the end. the first thing that I heard through this disembodied mystical voice that she carries was, choose fear or love. And the last thing that she said to me as this experience started to close out was that you will never need to scratch again. And after that, I definitely realized this psychosomatic connection, this mind-body connection where if I were to scratch this itch that I had, I call it the cosmic itch, like I said, it's just going to continue spreading and growing. And, I don't know where it originated from. I don't know what cured it necessarily, but eventually it did go away thanks to, number one, I developed the willpower to stop scratching it. And then, eventually it was really just
it's like what you pay attention to,
Yes.
You're giving it your energy,
That's spot on. Yeah.
Making it bigger,
Yeah. Because intuitively, if I were to say, to conclude this story, the download that I received, the messages that were given to me was basically the heart and the breath and the mind, they all form a type of trinity. And if you cycle something through that structure, you think about something, you feel something, and you breathe in a certain way, that moves your energy. Just like my friend talked about with that Tesla coil, the spiral staircase, Jacob's ladder, etc.
Yeah.
And so, it was really just if my skin was breaking out, it was probably maybe not something material, but maybe there was something spiritual that I had to overcome. And then it was coming out as this rash. It was manifesting itself on my skin as this rash. And now it's gone, has never come back since then. And I'm just thankful to have been able to go through all that and learn all those things.
Yeah, I think Chance kind of ironed that one in my belief system about medicine and, every illness or injury or whatever it may be. There is a spiritual meaning to that as well. And there is something to be learned in that. And why did that happen? And what is there to teach you in that injury or illness? And that's up to you to figure out and integrate into your life. But there's always something to learn from it, even our darkest moments, our lowest points in life. There's always something to be learned from it. It's
absolutely
the alchemical nature of it, of, turning the bad into good and using it to inspire you and, make you want change, and to be the change you wish to see. Yeah, man. Very impactful on my journey. Totally broke me wide open. I would say the biggest shift I had was just coming to the realization you have to be loved to be loved. And, you have to love yourself before you can love anyone else. And if you're not whole, how can you make anyone else whole or, help anyone else, And the work is never done. And don't get high on your laurels. There's always more to learn. Remain humble. And that part of the experience when I thought I was God, it was holy shit! This is a lot of responsibility. I don't want this responsibility.
Feeling like Spider-Man now. Yeah,
I ain't worthy of this. And it was this rejection I had of it's kind of like when you want to manifest something in your life, whether it's the right job or the right woman or the right relationship, whatever, friends. And that exact thing comes into your life, but it comes into your life before you're ready to receive it. So you have it and it's in your life now, but it doesn't look the way you thought it would look like. So you're almost not appreciative of it. And you're letting it pass you by rather than seeing it for what it is. And you're holy shit, this is magic. I literally just brought this into my life. But, when we have these blinders on, we can't see that, and just coming back to that awareness and just being aware of the signs and the synchronicities that come up in your life and trying to study and tap into your intuition so you can, crack those codes. And, we're never going to know all the answers, but, there is directions along the way that kind of guide us and nudge us in the right direction to, keep us on the right path, I feel. And, it's up to us to like trust that and see those signs as they come up and, really, really hone into them.
Well said, man. Yeah, there is a symbolic language that we're tapping into, even, if you're just going about your day to day and your normal everyday consciousness, but, in an altered state or in a dream state, whatever it may be, even just listening to a podcast. I've heard people say that if you listen to the right podcast at the right time, it'll put you in a different state. And I think it's definitely true. And, hopefully sharing
I've had those occurrences.
Sure. Me too. Many times. Yeah. Hopefully, by sharing this story, because I've never shared this on a podcast before. And I feel very blessed that you invited me to speak about this, because like I said earlier, with like the whole not purging thing, like I don't want to brag that, oh, I got to drink ayahuasca and this, and I'm so spiritual now. It's like, no, I mean, I quickly went back to my old bullshit after this. And, I'm still working on that. But the thing is, and I think the most powerful principle that I took away from this is the fact that there's a dieta leading up to it and a dieta afterwards says it all. Like there are certain ways that you can treat your body and your nervous system and configure your lifestyle to a way that can complement these spiritual experiences. Like I know I spoke about this with Chance recently, that if I'm eating junk food and I'm not sleeping and I'm playing too much video games or whatever, then I'll be stuck in my lower chakras, and I won't be able to access that higher energy. Yeah, I mean, so it's really just a matter of taking care of ourselves. And it's something that you said earlier. If you've reminded me of this old saying, I can't remember where it comes from. It's like some Zen book of poems that I found, but it was like, if you're hungry, plant a garden. And I think about it, I'm like, I mean, if you want to like feel love, then you have to produce it within yourself first. And I know it's said a lot these days, but I love putting it in the way of a garden, because whatever you grow, whatever you can produce and manifest will be a gift to this earth, to this world. If you're willing to put in that work to grow it in the first place.
Totally. Yeah, I mean, you can't expect crops to grow if you don't water. It's like you got to take care of yourself. You cannot forget about yourself, guys.
Absolutely.
Like, it's not a selfish thing to do. And like something I struggled with a lot too in the past, like a lot of people pleasing tendencies and, never saying no, always being there to help others and, being burnt out as a result. And that's a hard lesson to learn. And I'm still learning, but I'm thankful that I have the awareness I do now to like see those errors in my past of behavior that was internally like ruining me and taking a toll on me because I wasn't watering my own garden, and I was taking time to water everyone else's, but mine was turning into a desert, and that's a hard lesson that we come back to a lot, I think, of and that's usually when we, burn out or get sick or whatever, is like, okay, here's the message. Like, what got you here in the first place? Like what led up to this? And what was the turning point where you could have, avoided this altogether had you just, done this, or this. So yeah, it's been a continual journey, man, of just continuing to work with the shadow and those aspects about myself that I'm trying to integrate into a more evolved way. I like to always say, man, I think ayahuasca specifically, I have so much love for that medicine, but at the end of the day, Aya is going to show you the roadmap, but you got to walk the path. You got to follow the roadmap, and you got to integrate that into your life. And I think, like you said, man, we can fall back into old ways of being. They always like to say you have this 2-3 week pink cloud following you where you're just higher than life and feeling great when you come back, but you come back to the same environment you left before you went down there. So you're around the same friends, the same environment. So at the end of the day, man, it comes back to you. Like, how can you change your environment? How can you change your friends? Who do you let in your life that resonates with you, that empowers you just as much as you empower them? And it's a trade-off, man. Like, it's all energy, man. At the end of the day, like, can we protect our energy? Can we use our energy wisely? You know, don't let that river run dry.
Yeah, man. If you're growing your own garden, you could grow poisonous plants, and you don't want to do that, you know. So I love that analogy with the roadmap. You know, I think one thing I'd like to leave with people is that when I spoke about this experience, I was reminded of this analogy or this metaphor that, you know, these medicine journeys, the shamanic experiences, it's kind of like an express elevator, and it takes you all the way up. And you get a glimpse, and the doors open, and it's like you get this burst of energy and information. But then the doors are going to shut, and the elevator is going to drop back down, and you can't just keep on taking it back up, because that's not how it really works. And so it's the discipline and the flow, those two polarities. You know, staying disciplined on what you consume, and you know, flowing with your inner energies, and, you know, learning not to be too controlling, yet having the discipline to make those good choices are the two, I think, roads that lead back up to the top of that elevator, to wherever we ascend to on this chessboard of life.
I love it, brother. Great way to end it. I just wanted to ask you, Jake. So I think you're in a really good place, man. You're a bright guy. Love your energy, man. And thanks so much for coming on. But I know the world can get kind of crazy, especially coming from that traumatic situation in high school you described earlier. What are some daily spiritual practices that kind of help you stay grounded when life's getting a little wonky?
Yeah, man. Thank you for asking me that. I appreciate that. And overall, so what's today? Today is January 24th. So what I've been doing for the last 24 days, because ever since 2023 hit, I've definitely changed up the way that I do things quite a lot. That's sort of by accident, but also by design. And so what I would recommend, to keep it simple, but also, you know, to allow people to go to depths that they maybe didn't consider, I would consider waking up a little extra early and get that little extra time, because I know that everyone has something that they want to do more of. Right. For me, it's usually I want to read more books. I want to make more videos. Like, if you guys go on my Instagram, I'm trying to make a lot of cool videos. I just take like a clip of a podcast, put it out as like maybe like an advertisement or just like a little mini essay. But either way, I like to make those. Thank you, man. It's a lot of fun. Basically, you know, you got to give your energy to things that you really enjoy doing. So if you work a 9 to 5, like I do, then you got to wake up a little extra early. So that's the discipline part. The flow side of things is, I would suggest, and you can try this in a bunch of different ways. I live in an urban area in Dallas, so I like to wear headphones when I'm walking around and listen to podcasts, listen to music after my work day, and just stretch my legs, get my energy moving. Nothing too strenuous, but you know, I like to walk for distance and listen to maybe like an hour of a podcast. But if you live near a forest, near a quiet, secluded area, then take out those headphones. You know, I only have them in because of the cars and the noise.
Right.
But if you're in nature, you know, take it in and absorb it into yourself and immerse yourself. You don't really have to walk very quickly too, you know, just feel yourself in that present moment, experiencing where you are. And I think if you're going to go on a walk every day, you know, that's a great practice. Some people like to go lift weights. I prefer just keeping things light. I mean, it's good to stay strong. But you know, if people are feeling like heaviness and some kind of trauma, then you just got to move your energy. You gotta move. If you listen to Paul Chek, he's a holistic health practitioner.
Love Paul.
It's like you got to eat, move, and be healthy. Yes. And I think today we talked a lot about being, being embodied, being spiritually connected. Movement is crucial. Eat real foods. If it comes in a box or a package, think twice about it. Be able to pronounce all the ingredients, the less ingredients, better. And just, love everyone. Even if it's challenging, just try your best. And, it's not always going to come back to you. But I think from that famous Beatles song, it's like the love you make is equal, or the love you take is equal to the love that you make. Yeah.
Yep.
That's a good way to sum it up. Yeah.
I remember that from the Chris Farley show.
Yeah.
He totally butchered it.
And that song is the end, by the way. I think it's a great message to end on.
Yes, totally, brother. Well, thank you so much, Jake. Love having you on, brother. You're welcome back anytime. Definitely have to do some more collabs in the future. If you just want to tell the listeners where they can find you and what you got coming up in the future, if there's anything else you want to plug.
Awesome, Andre. Thank you very much, man. You guys can find me on Loco Listens podcast on Instagram and TikTok. I've been posting these short videos. I started a little side business with it. So if you have a podcast or a brand and you want to promote your show or your page, you can reach out to me. I usually like to make little 60-second clips with music and art. That's on @Loco Listens, Instagram and TikTok. I'm also on Telegram. You can find the Local Listeners Community, the LLC. Okay. That's a fun place. You can drop some memes, just have a little fun. And overall, I'm just happy to talk to anyone. If you want to come on the show, I'd love to interview you soon, Andre.
Okay, dude.
And I know we had discussed sharing the audio and the video. So for people listening, do you want to quickly plug your show and where can people find you?
Yeah, totally. You can find me anywhere podcasts are found: Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, all that good jazz at Ascension of the Chessmen. That's MEN, not MAN. Continuing to, book a lot of guests for the coming year. I feel like there's a lot of big things on the horizon. Excited for what this year is going to bring, and keep chugging along.
Awesome. I appreciate you, bro. It's been really cool, and I'm looking forward to doing it again soon.
Okay, brother. Well, thank you all for listening out there. I hope you gained something from this conversation. I hope you found a moment of presence throughout it. I send you all peace and love, and I hope you all have a beautiful rest of the week. Thanks for listening.
Aho.
Peace.
AT&T Fiber presents a straightforward moment inspired by straightforward pricing.
And now we just cube the pancetta as such.
So what's on the menu tonight?
This carbonara I found online. It's fire. You gonna love it, Mom.
I hope you hold on to this AT&T Fiber, son. It's nice.
Yeah, you should settle down now that you're a gagillionaire.
Oh, I am. I finally found the one internet I've been looking for my whole life.
So, no more one-year stands?
No, I'm done with all that. With AT&T Fiber, there's no price increase at 12 months.
What about equipment fees?
Nope.
Those were never any good for you.
Exactly. But now everything's completely straightforward.
Well, in the spirit of being straightforward, I never liked any of your old ones.
Me neither. Blah.
Y'all never told me that.
But we're being straightforward now, which feels good, yeah?
Yeah. Now let's get straightforward about that girl he's been seeing.
Straightforward is better. No equipment fees, no data caps, no price increase at 12 months. Live like a gagillionaire with AT&T Fiber. Limited availability in select areas. Visit att.com/hypergig for details.